Hello and welcome back to the DECAMERON Project. My name is Michael Khanlarian of Tennessee Shakespeare Company. The date is May 8th. Our theme is friendliness. On this date in history, the first installment of Fairy Tales Told for Children, written by Hans Christian Andersen, is published in 1835 in Copenhagen, Denmark. Also on this date in 2012, American illustrator and author Maurice Sendak passes away in 2012. In his essay, Circle of Myth, Walter Benjamin, who is a German philosopher, writes, "The fairy tale to this day is the first tutor to children because it was once the first tutor of mankind." Now, Hans Christian Andersen, who is the master of the fairy tale, proves this throughout his work. In one of his works, Ugly Duckling, he teaches us that not to let other people define our self-worth. And in his story, The Flax, he writes, "Now I shall be of some use in the world, as everyone ought to be. It is the only way to be happy," which means to me, purpose equals happiness. And Maurice Sendak perhaps writes, in my opinion, a modern take on the fairy tale in his most famous work, Where the Wild Things Are, which, if you haven't read, I highly recommend, not only for the story, but the illustrations as well, which I'll be reading today. And I challenge you to look down in the comments below, once you've heard this story, write down what you think Maurice is telling us. Here it is, Where the Wild Things Are. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew until his ceilings hung with vines, and the walls became the world around, and an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max. And he sailed off through night and day, and in and out of weeks, and almost over a year to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws, till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with a magic trick of staring with into their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all and made him king of the wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start." "Now stop," Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all the wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being the king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said no. The wild things roared with their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye, and sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through a day and into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him, and it was still hot. Shakespeare, in Romeo and Juliet, perhaps writes his own take on the fairy tale. Romeo, who has been having ominous and foreboding dreams about attending the Capulet feast tonight, is having second thoughts until his friend Mercutio gets into a wild story about a character named Queen Mab. "Oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you. She is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies over men's noses as they lie asleep." And as Mercutio gets more and more into the telling of this vivid tale, Romeo stops his friend and says, "Peace, peace, Mercutio, peace. Thou talk'st of nothing." "True," says Mercutio, "I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which is as thin a substance as the air, and more inconstant than the wind." What do you think Mercutio is trying to tell Romeo there? Thank you very much for joining us again on the DECAMERON Project. Once again, my name is Michael Khanlarian. I love you, or in Armenian, yes kesirum. Have a great day. Be well. Goodbye.